No, they think it's worse than murder.
Or worse than murder.
Sick. Sick. That guy should never walk the streets again.
Right. While someone who accidentally kills somebody while texting while driving, you know, they should only get probation. The Torah perspective is the opposite. The killing of somebody, you know, even if it's accidentally, that is heinous. The child molestation is bad, but it's not as bad as killing somebody while texting.
Very well said. Very well.
And like, I once had a girlfriend. She like texted me.
Jay, you had done it so beautifully. You had given such a pill pull explaining the differences and the nuances and the Torah, and I was so proud. And now you're going to take it down to the basement. Go ahead.
So I had this girlfriend. She like texted me a topless photo of herself. Like, if my heart had not been in such great shape, like I might have dropped dead, and she would have killed me with a sext.
And then you would have driven into somebody, and repercussions would have been just horrible.
Right. It's sort of like when you commit the great sin of spilling your seed. It's like, you know, you've just thrown away hundreds of lives. Like you just like tossed it away. You just like shot away hundreds of lives, potential lives.
But again,
like poured this flood of lives.
Again, it's still family rated until you've done it 3 times.
You've like hit the ceiling. Like, remember when you're young, you could like hit the ceiling, you know, when you're
young? This house is white. I bought it, it was blue. When you think it got white, dude?
That's horrible. You're a terrible man. That's so disgusting. Erase. I want to get that out of my head. So I remember a sermon that Rabbi Stephen Wild delivered at Beth Jacob about Deuteronomy, the beginning of Deuteronomy chapter 21, when if a community finds a body like in a field, and the body is not, you know, you don't know what happened to the person, the elders representing the community have to gather around, and they have to kill the heifer, and they have to declare that, you know, none of us knew what happened to this person, none of us like facilitated the death of this person. So the Rabbi Wow was making the point that shul should be a safe place, and that, you know, freaks and weirdos, you know, should not be hanging out at shul. It should not be an acceptable place for like freaky people.
Did he say that right before he kicked you out?
And so he came down to the Happy Minyan to give this talk. You know, the Happy Minyan has some eccentric characters. So like, I immediately went up to him and I said, you know, I totally agree with what you said. You know, I feel like shul should be a safe place, but you know, I agree with you. But you know, I've got my own surahs because I had just been kicked out of Young Israel Century City for running on the porn industry. So he said, well, you know, your case is more complex, and then I wrote some raunchy stuff on my new porn-free site. I'd quit writing on the porn industry, but I wrote some raunchy stuff, and he called me up and he said, you know, people have a problem with some of the terminology you're using. Would you mind doubling somewhere else? So he wanted to keep the freaks out, particularly like meaning single men.
So he was the rabbi at
Beth Jacob
who kicked you out.
Yeah.
You never told us that. You know, you always just said that you were. Okay, so now, you know, last week we talked about who the Chabad guy was.
Right.
So I know who that is.
Right.
You told us last year who the Eish Torah was.
Right.
And the other one was B'nai David.
B'nai David in Young Israel Century City.
Who kicked you out of B'nai David?
Some
woman. It had to be a woman.
No,
they're the Rebbitzin. and Young Israel. You mentioned who that is in the book.
Right. And I tell you what, when I was sick, like, you know, when I was tossing my cookies into the toilet, like I was, you know, vomiting again and again.
Thank you for taking us there.
All those rabbis were right. They were right to kick me out. I should not, like, you know, some of the rabbis.
Oh God, here comes all the self-pity.
You know, this is the opposite of self-pity. This is self-flagellation. Like I was thinking, they were right and I was wrong, and like, how dare I give any of these rabbis a hard time for just doing the righteous thing? Like how dare I, like, you know, raise a finger against them to my keyboard? Like, they were the righteous ones and I was the wicked one, and I need to shape up my life and stop complaining about other people and lead a more righteous life so that doesn't keep happening to me.
I want to say something, interject before you start the next piece.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I correct something I said, because you asked me, what does the Torah say in the Ten Commandments about murder? And I said shvichus damim, which is to draw blood. And then I remembered just now that that's not what it is. It's lo tirsach, which is not to murder, right? And the reason why I need to correct that, Because if I don't correct it, my nephew Montes is going to send me a message in 2 weeks because he's going to catch up with, because he's like 2 weeks behind, and he's going to see that and he's going to go, no, Uncle Herschel, it's not that, it's no Tirtzach. So, Montes, you don't need to write to me. I got it covered. Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Hey, did you ever look at my porn blog before you ever met me?
I never heard of you.
You never heard of me until I asked you.
I never heard of you. I never seen you, and life was good.
Okay. You really know how to win friends and influence.
I never heard of you. And it was funny too because even after I'd met you, right? When we interviewed or whatever, we met with each other. I'd never seen you before, and you were saying, I still didn't know who you were. I never heard of you, right? And I'm like, I just talked for like hours with this guy. I don't know. He's like he could be anybody. I don't even know who he is. I was like, whatever, whatever, Charlie.
Thank you, Heshi Fried, for that shidduch, putting the Rabbi Rabs and I together. We've been inseparable ever since.
I thought, okay,
we're like two facets of one being.
I thought I'm probably the greatest thing that's ever happened to this guy because I'm this guy with gigantic fame. I'm America's first and favorite rabbi comic, and I'm doing this interview for free by him. At his house. God forbid the guy should get out of his garage to interview me. Someplace. So, it's like, here I am doing this, so, whatever. Okay, let's keep going.
Okay, so it's not like every time Jews fight that God's automatically on their side. Like, many times Jews have fought wars and they've lost. So God has even sent Israel's enemies into Israel to punish Israel. So what's important is not whether or not God is behind you. What's important is whether or not you're behind God.
That's right. And it doesn't just mean, Levi, that the war that you're waging is the war that God wants you to be fighting.
Right.
But it means, even when you're not fighting,
right,
are you doing the right thing?
Right. Like, I'm fighting a war on drugs.
You should be fighting a war on using
I'm
your
fighting
tool.
a war on pornography. I'm fighting a war on illicit sex. But maybe those shouldn't be the wars I should be fighting.
You're fighting the wrong wars.
Maybe I'm fighting the wrong wars. Maybe I should fight a war on my tendency to aggrandize myself and be insensitive to other people's needs.
That's a very commendable war to fight. That's a very good thing to fight. I commend you if you want to wage that one.
This week's Torah portion helps to institute Israel's system of justice. Any loon can take a biblical text and give you an opinion.
And you do it every week.
I do it every week. But the Jewish way is not just in text, but it is a system. You can't just read the text to understand the system. You can't just go along to shul without studying the text and understand the system. Judaism is tough. You have to learn and you have to practice. And you have to be part of a community. Nice
Ishma. Actually, you have to practice and you have to learn. Right? You have to practice and you have to learn.
Dealing with a woman you take captive in war. You have to let her mourn for 30 days. She cuts her hair and thus becomes less attractive. So there's no easy sex in Judaism. Like with some of these porn stars.
Here we go. Here we go.
The sex was so easy. The sex was easy.
See, this is the part I don't get. Here's this porn star, say I'm a porn star, right?
Yeah,
and I'm making like buku money and all this stuff.
Right.
And you're just a schlub on the set.
I'm not a schlub. I was the most important columnist in the industry.
Well, what does she care?
She reads my blog every day.
These people read the internet?
Yeah, a lot of these people read.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's news to me. Because I'm thinking to myself, why would she drop her trowel just because she drops her trowel on stage?
Why would she drop to her knees in front of
me? Because she's getting paid money for that. Right? That's a profession. She's not going to drop.
Maybe she likes my blog.
Okay, can I tell you something?
Yeah.
I know some people in the porn business.
Yeah.
What they do in front of the camera is not what happens off camera. As far as I know, they're very the opposite of that when they're off camera. At least that's what they put on the show in front of me. You know what I'm saying? And that's,
I don't know. All the porn stars I've been with just put on a show like they were loving every second of it. Like they loved my appendage. They loved my lovemaking style. They loved to have me devour them. They opened up their legs. They opened up their throat. They opened up everything to me. Like